What's up, y'all? It's your boy Big Steve back at it again, and today I'll be showing you guys my Necromancer in Diablo 4 and show you how hard it hits. So I'll go over the items, talents, Paragon board, and we'll go from there. Now, before I show some of the gameplay footage, I will say this kind of plays like an Infinimus build. The whole idea behind this is you cast your Blood Mist, you create the corpses, you fall back, cast your corpse tendrils, pop Decrepify, and blast away. Now, usually I'm hitting anywhere from 8 to 11 million on a regular basis in the groups. The highest crit I did see so far is 15 million, which is pretty high for Bone Spear. But that's the general gameplay for it for the high tiers. Right now I'm pushing in the 70 to 80 tiers. I've tried 90 plus. It's a bit hard. You get one shot. You got to play very, very, very careful when you're going that high. But it's one of the highest damage Bone Spears I've seen. So I'd just like to show you guys. And we'll dive into the gameplay. Alright, I'll start with the items. Quickly go over this. The helmet is Deathless Visage. Ideally, you want high rolls on this. You want a high max essence roll, mainly. But overall, the helm I have is pretty solid. All the rolls are high except for the essence. Next, we went with, I went with Barrier. You can go with what you want here. It's totally up to you. I went with damage, bone skill damage, armor, and damage reduction from distance enemies. For the gloves, I went with crit chance, crit damage, bone spear, and the lucky hit chance for the primary resource. That's a pretty big one. It definitely helps get your resource back. And the aspect I used was Bone Spear's primary attack makes the first enemy vulnerable for 2 seconds, bone shards from your bone spear deal 75%. So I could still get a bit better of a roll on this, which would help damage-wise. For the pants, I went with the aspect of disobedience, which is the armor. So you gain up to a certain percent armor depending on how often you're hitting an enemy. So that stacks up to 50% total. And for the pants, I went with armor, damage reduction, life, and for the blood mist, because the more points you put into blood mist, the lower the cooldown. So I do use blood mist a lot. Like I said, it's like the Infinite Mist build. You start off with blood mist and you run around, and your last corpse, you use that as a corpse tendril. So having some cooldown reduction, I haven't really tested out a lot. I tried a little bit, but I lost damage. So looking for the right items to switch out with cooldown reduction could be worth it. And for the boots, I went with Explosive Mist. And what this does is Blood Mist triggers corpse explosion on surrounding corpses. When Blood Mist detonates a corpse, its cooldown is reduced by 0.5 seconds. So I think it usually explodes about 3 corpses. So that's 1.5 seconds off your Blood Mist cooldown. And I will say I went with the talent for the corpse explosion for the big area. And the reason why I do this is because when you cast Decrepify, the talent in Decrepify reduces your cooldown depending on enemies hit, which I'll go over in a little bit. So having that big area effect from your corpse explosion can be huge. And for the weapon, I went with Serration. And what this is, the Ossified Essence key passive also increases the critical strike damage of your bone skills by 1% per essence above 50, up to 76%. Now, some people like to put this on their gloves or wherever, and some people like to put this aspect on the weapon, vice versa. It's totally up to you what you want to do, but having these 2 key passives, they're some of the main ones you need. And we're going to go over to the amulet, and I went with Grasping Veins. I think almost every necromancer needs corpse tendrils. So this aspect is one of the best necromancer aspects out there. Gain 30% increased critical strike chance for 6 seconds when you cast corpse tendrils. So as soon as you cast it, you get 30% critical strike chance, which is huge. And you also deal 90% bonus critical strike damage to enemies damaged by corpse tendrils. So this is huge. That is a must. And this is something else you could put on the weapon depending how you want to switch things around. For the ring, I went with skills deal up to 16% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast. So receiving the maximum benefit while you have full primary resource, obviously. This one's pretty good. Obviously, I'd still like to get a 20%, so I could still get a little bit of a damage increase off some of this stuff, getting perfect rolls. And for the next one, I went with Consuming a Corpse increases the damage of your next core skill by 9% up to 45%. So this is another one. I still need to get a perfect one. Every bit would help, so that would up my damage even more. And what I will note is when you use your Blood Mist and you do explode those corpses automatically, that also gives you this effect. So when you come out of your Blood Mist, you cast Corpse Tendrils, and then you cast the Bone Spear, which is your core ability. And that pretty well sums up the items. Alright, let's jump into the talents really quick. Okay, starting out, we picked Bone Splinters and we took Enhanced Bone Splinters, and then we come down here. Then we took 3 into Unliving Energy and 3 into Imperfectly Balanced. Now both of these are very good. This gives you more essence, and this one makes your core skill cost more essence, but you deal 15% increased damage, which is a lot. The trade-off is worth it. And then we come down to Bone Spear. We max that. Then we take Enhanced Bone Spear. And then we take Paranormal Bone Spear. And then we also take Hewed Flesh. This has a chance to create corpses on your lucky hit, which we'll get into later, because we took a glyph that increases your damage depending on how many corpses are around. And then we come down here, put a point into Blood Mist, then we take Enhanced Blood Mist, and then we take Ghastly Blood Mist. Now what this does is leaves behind a corpse every second. So like I said, with your legendary aspect on your boots, as you're blood misting around, it's exploding the corpses you lay. So the last corpse will not explode, and that is the corpse you use your corpse tendrils on. And we also put 1 point into Corpse Explosion, Enhanced Corpse Explosion, and Blighted Corpse Explosion. And this is what the big area I was talking about. Corpse Explosion becomes a darkness skill, and instead of exploding, releases a vile Masma, dealing shadow damage. And the reason why we take this is because I'll talk about Decrepify real quick. We put 1 point into this, and then 1 point into Enhanced Decrepify, and then Abhorrent Decrepify. Lucky hit. Enemies hit while afflicted with Decrepify have up to a 15% chance to reduce your active cooldowns by 1 second. So, the blighted area is just damage. It might not be big damage, but it's damage. Your enemies are getting damaged. And Corpse Explosion has a lucky hit chance of 40%. So, it kind of helps proc this a lot. So your Blood Mist comes off cooldown quicker, and your Corpse Tendrils comes down off cooldown quicker. But we'll come back down here, and I also put 1 point into Grim Harvest just to get some essence back if needed. And 3 into Fueled Death. You deal 9% increased damage for 6 seconds after consuming a corpse. And I also put 3 points into Amplify Damage. So this increases your damage by 15% when you curse an enemy. And then we're going to come down here, put 1 point into Corpse Tendrils, 1 into Enhanced, and 1 into Blighted Corpse Tendrils for some Blood Orbs. This is just an emergency, just in case you're in a little bit of a tight squeeze, and the Blood Orbs can help you out. Then we come down here, we put 3 points into Inspiring Leader, and what this does is it actually gives you attack speed after you have been healthy for at least 4 seconds, which I find is great. Being able to attack quicker sometimes, depending on the situation, could be very helpful. Then we come over here and put 3 points into Stand Alone. This is just a base damage reduction for 18%. And we put 3 points into Memento Mori. Sacrificing both Skeleton Warriors and Skeleton Mages increases their sacrifice bonuses by 60%. Now this is only for your Skeleton Warriors and Mages, so like if you wanted to use your Golem, you could. This will not affect the Golem at all. And then for the main passive, we come down and we take Ossified Essence. Your bone skills deal 1% increased damage for each point of essence you have above 50 upon cast. And this is one of the reasons why it's so important to have a lot of essence, because the more essence you have and the more bone spheres you can shoot off sometimes, as long as you're above that 50 essence mark, you're doing pretty good. And that's pretty well it for the talents. I'll quickly go over the Paragon board. Now, for the Paragon board, I did have some look at some other YouTubers, so I had a bit of help giving myself some direction. It's not 100% copied, but it gave me some good ideas. So for the first board, this is what it looks like. And the glyph we took was Amplify. And the reason why we take this is because not only do you get enemies affected by curse skills take 10% increased damage from you and your minions, if you have them, but you also get 150% bonus to all magic nodes, which is huge. You could also use, there's another one, I think it could be, let me see, exploit, no, not that one. You could also use Sacrificial here, does not matter. They both do roughly the same thing. I would actually probably go with Sacrificial there. It's just, you always get the 10% increased damage. I might have switched my glyphs out, so I would go with Sacrificial here, 100%. Now for the next board, we took Bone Graft. And you use a lot of points on this board. So you come over this way, you take Bone Graft, you get some of the rare nodes here. And then you come all the way up, you get these rare nodes here, and we come over here to get our glyph. And the glyph I used was Gravekeeper. Now what this does, you deal 2% increased damage up to 12% for every close corpse. So we also have the talent of lucky hit of creating corpses and killing stuff. It just creates corpses. Usually you're gonna have a lot of corpses around when you're in battle. So this can be very helpful. And the next one I took was the Bloodbath node. Now we're not going to use this at all. This is just to easily come over here and get another glyph section. And the glyph I used was Essence. And what this does is for every 5 dexterity purchased within range, core skills deal 9.9% increased critical strike damage. So this is huge. And also the additional bonus, critical strikes deal 22% increased damage to enemies that are not healthy. So this is just a pretty strong glyph overall. It's definitely a must-have. And then we go to the other side. We come over here and we take Scent of Death. And while with at least 2 corpses nearby, you gain 15% damage reduction. So usually you have corpses around, but for starting, you also, if there's no corpses around, you have 15% increased damage. So when you're starting a battle, this is always good to have because you have 15% increased damage. But the glyph I took for this was Imbiber. For every 5 willpower purchased within range, you deal 9.9% increased damage while healthy. And the additional bonus is you gain 30% increased potion healing. So not huge, but it's definitely one you want. And then we come down over here and we take Flesh Eater. So consuming 5 corpses grants 40% increased damage for 6 seconds. I don't have this yet. I am working towards it, as you can see. Like I said, when you cast Blood Mist, you're going to consume those corpses. Like I said, for that legendary aspect I have on my ring, consuming corpses increases your core skill damage. So you'll be consuming corpses a lot. So this is just going to be a big damage buff for when I do get to it. But the first thing I did was come down and get my glyph. And the glyph I chose was Control. Now this one's huge. For every 5 intelligence purchased within range, you deal 9.9% increased damage to crowd-controlled enemies. Right? So, right now, and the bonus effect is you and your minions deal 10% increased damage to slowed or chilled enemies. So when you decrepify them, that's a slow. So you'll get that bonus effect just from decrepify. Now, instead, you get 20% increased damage to stunned or frozen enemies. Now, Corpse Tendrils gives us 3-second stun. So you'll get the 20% increased damage bonus when you do the Corpse Tendrils, and you get the 10% from just decrepifying. That's a big damage output. That's definitely a main one. And that's pretty well it for the Paragon board. And yeah, you guys can copy it if you want. Totally up to you. You can go different ways. I like to do little different things. It's always good to look at what other people are doing. You can learn things from them and you can kind of create your own way. I will also note Bone Spear Necro is very glass cannon-y. So getting hit is something you want to avoid. It doesn't take much to take you down. Sometimes that's the only negative about this build. I wish there were better ways for survival. We'll have to see what the future brings, but that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and see y'all in the next one. Peace.